Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to have a very serious grown-up conversation about a topic that is often shrouded in silence, giggles, or absolute misinformation. We are going to talk about anal intimacy. Whether you are purely curious, whether you have tried it and had a bad experience, or whether this is a regular part of your life, there is a medical reality to this part of the human anatomy that changes as we age. You might think you know how your body works, but after the age of 50, tissue elasticity, blood flow, and muscle recovery change dramatically. There is a lot of bad advice circulating on the internet, and unfortunately, even among friends, people rarely share the medical facts. Today, we are analyzing 5 critical truths that proctologists and specialists know, but rarely discuss openly with the general public. We are going to look at the anatomy of the sphincters, the dangerous myths about hygiene that could actually be damaging your colon, the chemistry of lubrication versus saliva, and medical interventions like Botox that are revolutionizing how we treat intimate pain. This is about safety, pleasure, and maintaining the integrity of your body for the long haul. Let's begin with the first truth, and this one is purely anatomical. It explains why so many men experience pain or failure when attempting this kind of intimacy, regardless of their experience level. It is the myth of just relax. You have probably heard this 1,000 times. If there is discomfort, people say you just need to relax your mind. But medically, that is physically impossible for half of the equation. Here is the science. Your anus is not just one ring of muscle. It is composed of 2 distinct sphincters. There is the external sphincter and the internal sphincter. The external sphincter is skeletal muscle. This means it is voluntary. You can control it. When you think about holding it in or letting it go, you are communicating with your external sphincter. However, the internal sphincter is smooth muscle. It is completely involuntary. It operates under the control of the autonomic nervous system. This means you cannot simply will it to relax. You can be the calmest, most relaxed person in the room mentally, but that internal muscle might still be clamped shut tight like a drum. Why does this matter for men over 50? Because as we age, our muscle tone changes. If you try to force penetration when only the external muscle is relaxed, but the internal one is still contracted, you are essentially fighting your own biology. The internal sphincter only relaxes in response to specific biological cues, primarily gentle, sustained pressure and time. It is a reflex arc. If you rush this process, you are not just causing pain. You are risking tearing the lining of the canal, which takes much longer to heal as we get older due to reduced collagen production. Understanding that you cannot mentally control the internal sphincter changes the game. It requires patience and physical warm-up, not just mental intent. This leads us directly into the second truth, which is perhaps the most dangerous myth regarding hygiene. We need to talk about the chuka, or the deep enema wash. There is a massive misconception that to be clean, you need to flush your system with large amounts of water before intimacy. This is not only unnecessary, it is potentially harmful. The rectum, which is the final section of your large intestine before the anus, is usually empty. Unless you have the urge to evacuate, the body naturally stores waste higher up. When you use high-pressure bulbs or shower attachments to force large volumes of water inside, you are disrupting the natural balance. Here is the specific danger. If you use too much water or too much pressure, that fluid travels past the rectum and into the sigmoid colon. The sigmoid colon is where waste is actually stored. By flooding this area, you turn the solid waste into a liquid slurry. Gravity then does its work, and that dirty water comes back down. So by trying to be too clean, you actually create a situation where you are cleaning for hours because the water keeps bringing down debris from the upper colon that would have otherwise stayed there. But the risk goes beyond just a mess. For men over 60, the mucosal lining of the intestine is thinner and more fragile. Repeatedly stripping this lining with water, especially tap water which contains chlorine and other minerals, can irritate the mucosa. It washes away the protective mucus that your body produces naturally. This mucus is there for a reason, to protect the tissue from microabrasions. If you wash it all away, you are leaving the raw tissue exposed to friction. If you feel you must perform some hygiene, the medical advice is clear. Use a very small, controlled amount of water. The goal is only to rinse the very end of the rectum, not to irrigate the entire colon. Low pressure, low volume. You are not trying to sterilize your insides. You are just clearing the exit. Preserving your natural flora and mucosal barrier is a key part of longevity. You do not want to induce chronic inflammation in your bowel, just for the sake of a few minutes of intimacy. Now let's move to the third truth. This is about lubrication, and it is where most men make a critical error. We need to talk about why saliva is the enemy of healthy anal tissue. In movies, and perhaps in your younger years, saliva was the go-to solution. It seems natural, it is readily available. But from a proctological and dermatological standpoint, saliva is terrible for anal play. Saliva contains digestive enzymes. Its biological purpose is to begin breaking down food. It is not designed to be a lubricant. It dries incredibly fast, becoming tacky and sticky within seconds. When it dries, it increases friction rather than reducing it. Friction in the anal canal leads to microtears. In a younger body, these heal quickly. In a body over 50, these microtears can become entry points for bacteria, leading to abscesses or fissures. Furthermore, the mouth is full of bacteria that do not belong in the rectum. Introducing oral flora to the anal region can disrupt the delicate microbiome balance there. You must view lubricant not as an accessory, but as a form of protective equipment. Because the anal canal does not produce its own lubrication like the vagina does, you are solely responsible for creating that barrier. You need to choose between silicone-based or water-based lubricants, and you need to use them generously. However, there is a caveat. You must avoid oil-based lubricants if you are using condoms, as oil degrades latex instantly. But even without condoms, heavy oils can sometimes clog pores and cause folliculitis in the surrounding hair. A high-quality, thick water-based or silicone blend is essential. It provides a cushion that prevents the skin from dragging. Remember, at our age, skin creates less oil and retains less moisture. We are prone to dryness. Using a proper medical-grade lubricant is the only way to ensure that intimacy doesn't result in a week of burning and discomfort. This brings us to the fourth truth, and this is a fascinating insight into how modern medicine treats pain. We need to discuss the reality of pain and the use of Botox. There is a dangerous belief that anal sex is supposed to hurt, or that you just need to get used to it. Let me be very clear. Pain is a stop signal. It is your body telling you that tissue is being damaged. If you experience sharp tearing pain, or if you see blood, this is not a normal part of the process. The specialist in our source analysis shared a compelling story about a patient. This patient was suffering from chronic pain after intimacy and assumed it was just a lack of practice. Upon examination, it was discovered she had a chronic fissure, a non-healing wound. Because of the pain, her internal sphincter was in a permanent state of spasm. It was tight because it was hurt, and because it was tight, the wound couldn't heal. It is a vicious cycle. The solution wasn't more practice, it was medical intervention. They used botulinum toxin, Botox. We usually think of Botox for wrinkles, but in proctology, it is used to paralyze the internal sphincter muscle temporarily. This chemical relaxation allows the muscle to stop spasming, which restores blood flow to the fissure, allowing it to finally heal. This is relevant to you because if you have tried this and it hurts every time, you might have a chronic microfissure or a hypertonic pelvic floor. You don't need to push through it. You might need a specialist to help you reset that muscle tone. As we age, we don't heal as fast. A fissure at 20 might heal in a few days. A fissure at 60 can become a chronic ulcer if not treated. Do not ignore persistent pain. It is not a matter of toughness, it is a matter of tissue health. Finally, the fifth truth. This is the conversation about immunity and protection. There is a misconception that once you pass a certain age, or if pregnancy is no longer a risk, protection becomes obsolete. The reality of the anal canal is that it is highly vascular. It has a rich blood supply, and as we mentioned, the lining is thin. This makes it the most efficient route for the transmission of infections, far more so than oral or vaginal contact. Even without ejaculation, the friction and the exchange of fluids can transmit pathogens. We are seeing a rise in STI rates among the over 60 demographic precisely because of this relaxed attitude. The immune system naturally weakens as we age. Our ability to fight off a bacterial load is not what it was at 30. The recommendation from health ministries is clear. Anyone engaging in anal intimacy should be screened for local infections regularly. And here is the kicker. Many infections in this region are asymptomatic in the early stages. You might feel fine, your partner might look healthy, but a dormant issue can be transmitted and cause significant complications later, including inflammatory issues that affect the prostate. Using a barrier method isn't just about birth control, obviously not an issue for us. It's about reducing the viral and bacterial load that your immune system has to deal with. If you are in a committed, long-term monogamous relationship, the risk is lower, but the hygiene and lubrication rules still apply. But if you are dating again in your silver years, protection is non-negotiable for preserving your health. To summarize, gentlemen, 1. Respect the involuntary internal sphincter. It needs time, not force. 2. Avoid the deep chuka wash. Protect your colon's mucus. 3. Throw away the saliva. Use high-quality silicone or water-based lubrication. 4. Never ignore pain. It could require medical treatment like Botox to heal fissures. 5. Maintain your protection standards. Your immunity depends on it. Intimacy is a beautiful part of life at any age, but it requires intelligence and adaptation. By understanding the biology of your body, you can prevent injury and ensure that your experiences are safe and fulfilling. If you found this medical breakdown helpful, I have a request. We are building a community of men who value facts over myths. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next guide. In our next video, we are going to look at the prostate specifically and the daily habits that shrink it naturally. You won't want to miss that. Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. See you in the next video.